What is lacrimal apparatus? Lacrimal apparatus consists of two parts. One is the secretory part and another is the drainage part. So, secretory part is formed from the lacrimal gland and accessory lacrimal gland, and drainage pathway is from puncta, canaliculi, lacrimal sac, then nasolacrimal duct, and through nasolacrimal duct it drains into the inferior meatus. So, components of the lacrimal apparatus. Lacrimal apparatus is comprised by the lacrimal gland, lacrimal puncta, lacrimal canaliculi, lacrimal sac and a nasolacrimal duct. This is the diagram of the lacrimal apparatus. This one is the lacrimal gland. Here tear are secreted, and through the lacrimal duct it comes to the conjunctival sac, and through the conjunctival sac this is the upper puncta, this is lower puncta, and this is superior canaliculi, this is upper canaliculi. It has two parts, vertical part and horizontal part. At the horizontal part, here is the 90 degree of max 90 degree of angle, then it may be join both canaliculi or separately open into the lacrimal sac. Lacrimal sac has three parts. Above the opening of the common canaliculi, this is the fundus of the lacrimal sac, this is the body of the lacrimal sac, and this is the neck. Neck is the narrowest part of the lacrimal sac, and here this is the nasolacrimal duct. It opens into the inferior meatus. This is inferior meatus, middle meatus and upper meatus. Okay, follow this. Then lacrimal gland. Where is the situated lacrimal gland? Lacrimal gland is situated in the fossa of lacrimal fossa, and it is formed by the orbital part of frontal bone and the anterolateral part of the orbit. This is formed lacrimal fossa, and where lacrimal gland is situated, and this lacrimal gland is divided into two parts. Main lacrimal superior part and inferior part. Superior part is the superior orbital and the inferior palpebral part of the lacrimal gland, and this inferior part, its lower part is again it is posteriorly connected to each other. Okay, and this is the structure of the orbit. Here is this is the lacrimal gland. Okay, if you make the cut section, you see like this. This one is the inferior rectus, this is the tendon of superior rectus, this is the medial rectus, lateral rectus, and this part is the bulbar conjunctiva. This is superior rectus. This is the cornea, this one is the iris, and this black part is the pupil. Okay. Then parts of the lacrimal gland. Orbital part is larger as compared to the palpebral part. Okay. Then orbital part, there is the there is a depression where the that is called the lacrimal fossa, which is present in the frontal bone, where this orbital part is situated, and the palpebral part is smaller, and it is orbital part, and the palpebral part is divided by the levator palpebrae superioris muscles. So orbital part is rest above the levator palpebrae superioris muscle, and the inferior palpebral part is below the levator palpebrae superioris muscles. Then orbital part is larger, and it is the size of almond shape, and it has the two surfaces, superior surface and inferior surface. Superior surface is convex, and inferior surface is convex, and it has two borders, anterior border and posterior border, and two extremities, medial and lateral extremities. So superior surface is convex. It lies in contact with the periorbita, lining the part of the frontal bone and forming the fossa of the lacrimal gland, and attached to the periorbita by fine trabecules. And inferior surface is concave, and it lies the levator palpebrae superioris muscles and the lateral horn of the levator aponeurosis. Then anterior border is soft and within and parallel to the orbital margin up to the zygomatic frontal suture. It lies in contact with the septum orbitali. Then posterior border is round, and it is continuous with the palpebral part of the lacrimal gland, and it lies contact with the orbital pad of fat. Then two extremities, lateral and medial extremities. Then palpebral part of the lacrimal gland. Palpebral part of the lacrimal gland is, it is 1/3 of the orbital part. It is smaller as compared to the orbital part. It consists only 2 to 3 lobules and is situated upon the course of the duct of the orbital part, and which separate the levator palpebrae superioris muscle, and ducts emerge from the orbital part. They traverse through the palpebral part of the lacrimal gland, and they open into the superior fornix. What is fornix? What is superior fornix? It is the part of conjunctiva. Conjunctiva has the 4 fornix: superior fornix, inferior fornix, medial fornix, and lateral fornix. So inferiorly, the gland lies in relation to the superior fornix, and the gland is compressed from above downwards and can be through the conjunctiva when the lid is elevated, and it can be seen with double eversion of the lid, and posteriorly it is continuous with the orbital part. So lacrimal gland is drained by the series of 8 to 12 ducts. 8 to 12 ducts are present. The ducts open into the lateral part of the superior fornix, and 1 to 2 ducts are also open into the lateral part of the superior fornix. Then okay, so these ducts passes through the palpebral part of the gland, through and through, and when excision of the if in case of the removal of the gland, palpebral part is removed, then whole of the ducts are also removed along with the palpebral part. Then secretions from the gland is spread from surface of the eye by the action of the lid, blinking action of the lid. So this is the microscopic structure. Microscopically, it is the glandular tissue, Stroma and septa is present. It is lined by the capsule as the outermost limit. Glandular tissue consists of the acini and ducts. These are arranged in the lobes and the lobules, and which are separated from each other by the fibrovascular septa. It is a acini types of the gland. These shapes are pyramidal shapes. It secretes a tear and expel the contraction of the microfibrils, and these secretions are drained into the connecting channel through the connecting channel to begin with the intralobular, and then it becomes extralobular. Intralobular part means the part of the acini are inside the gland. Then the second part is the stroma. Stroma of the lacrimal gland is formed by the mesodermal cells. So there is no need of the details going to the microscopic structures. Then we come to the blood supply. Lacrimal gland is supplied by, as the name suggests, lacrimal artery. Lacrimal artery is the branch of ophthalmic artery, and lymphatic drainage is preauricular lymph nodes. Then nerve supply of lacrimal gland is lacrimal nerve, and lacrimal nerve is the branch of ophthalmic division of the fifth cranial nerve. What is the name of the fifth cranial nerve? Trigeminal. Then sympathetic supply comes from the carotid plexus of the cervical sympathetics, and the secretomotor fibers. These are derived from the superior salivary nucleus. So these are all about the anatomy. Then accessory lacrimal glands. First we discuss about the main lacrimal gland, and these are about the accessory lacrimal glands. When we remove the lacrimal gland, then there is no dry eye. Why? In that condition, these glands are secrete and keep the eye moist and allow the mobility of the eye. So these structure, these are very small in size, and these are called gland of Kray's. It is present in the upper lid 40 to 42, and the lower lid is present 6 to 8 in numbers, and deeply situated in the conjunctiva near the fornix of the lateral side. Then glands of Wolfram, it is few in number, and it is situated in the upper border of the dorsal plate. Upper border of the dorsal plate in upper lid, and the lower border of dorsal plate in lower lid. And the caruncle and plica semilunaris, these are the rudimentary part of the lacrimal glands. Then lacrimal drainage system. And here this is the puncta. You see it? This is the lower puncta, and this one is the upper puncta. Puncta is the small round and oval orifice. Its diameter is 0.2 millimeter and situated in the summit of the elevation, the papilla lacrimalis, that lies near the medial end of the eyelid. Eyelid margin at the junction of the ciliated and non-ciliated part of the eyelid. And the puncta is being avascular and pallor, and when we invert the lid, we can clearly see the puncta. Then puncta is surrounded by the ring of dense fibrous tissue, which maintain the patency of the puncta. And when there is stenosis of the puncta occur, then there is the overflow of tearing occurs or watering is present. Then canaliculi. It is a hollow tube and its diameter is 0.5 millimeter. Okay, and it connects the lacrimal canaliculi connects the puncta to the lacrimal sac. Its two part, vertical part and horizontal part. Vertical part is 2 millimeter in diameter and the horizontal part is at to 10 millimeter in the length, and upper canaliculi is slightly shorter as compared to the lower canaliculi. So, and it's where both the canaliculi are angulated at that junction of vertical part and horizontal part, there is a slight elevation that is called the ampulla of the canaliculi. Then canaliculi unites at the angle of 25 degrees. So, at 25 degrees, then after vertical part and horizontal part unite and they go and enter into the lacrimal sac. And this common canaliculi directed at the angle of 45 degrees. They both common canaliculi present in the 25 degrees, but when they again angulated at the opening of the lacrimal sac. The acute entry into the lacrimal sac creates a potential mucosal folds, and there is the valve present that is called the valve of Rosenmuller, which prevents the reflux of tear from lacrimal sac to the conjunctival sac. When this valve is not present, then when we squeeze the eye, the contents or tears from the lacrimal sac, they again comes into the conjunctival sac. So, this is all. Then lacrimal sac. Lacrimal sac, its dimension is 12 to 15 millimeter in length, and its anteroposterior diameter is 4 to 6 millimeter, and it is 2 to 3 millimeter wide. And situation, lacrimal sac is situated in the lacrimal fossa, and this it is situated in the lacrimal fossa, and lacrimal fossa is formed by the lacrimal bone and the frontal process of the maxilla in the anterior part of the medial wall of the orbit. So, it then it continues at the medial wall of the orbit where the lacrimal sac is and it continues below into the nasolacrimal duct. So, nasolacrimal duct upper part is the bony canal, then lower part is the squamous soft part. So, this is the structures. This is lacrimal gland, and this is the orbital part, this is the palpebral part, and these are the lacrimal which opens into the inferior fornix. Inferior fornix is present there. Here the secretion occurs and it comes into the conjunctival sac. From conjunctival sac, this is the upper puncta and this is the lower puncta. This is the vertical part and this is the horizontal part. This is the lower puncta, it is the vertical part and horizontal part. Sometimes they open separately into the lacrimal sac, or sometimes they both join and open. So, this opening of the common canaliculi, where the common canali open, it's a part above the opening of the canaliculi open, it is called fundus of the lacrimal sac, and this is the body of the lacrimal sac, and this part is the neck of the lacrimal sac, that is the narrowest part, and this part is the bony part, and here valve is present, that is called valve of Hessner. So one valve is present in the here, that is called valve of the Rosenmuller, and another valve is present at the level of the nasolacrimal duct where it opens into the inferior meatus, that is called the valve of Hessner, that prevents the reflux from the contents of the nasal into the upwards and prevent retrograde infection. So relations of the lacrimal sac, you all know well anatomy and physiology, so there is no need to explain it. We go ahead. Nasolacrimal duct. Here nasolacrimal duct is divided into two parts. This is the intraosseous part. Intraosseous part is the 12.5 millimeter, and the intermeatal part, that is the 5.5 millimeter. So opening of the nasolacrimal duct has a mucosal fold, that is called the valve of the Hessner, and when there is infection, foreign body or any blockage occur at this level of the nasolacrimal duct, that causes dacryocystitis. Then lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct, there is no need to. Blood supply of the lacrimal passages. Lacrimal passage is supplied by the artery, that is superior and inferior palpebral arteries, and superior and inferior palpebral artery, and the angular branch of the facial artery, and nasal branch of the sphenopalatine artery. Venous drainage is the angular vein, and infraorbital vein, nasal vein. Then lymphatic drainage is the submandibular and deep cervical glands. Nerve supply. So sensory supply, sensory nerve supply of the lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct comes from the infratrochlear nerve of the anterior superior alveolar nerves. Then physiology of drainage system, tears are drained from the conjunctival sac by two mechanisms. First one is the gravity, due to the gravity from the tears secreted from the lacrimal gland, they comes into the conjunctival sac, and second one is the active pump mechanism. So this is the physiology about the drainage of the tear and active pump. 70% of the drainage is done by the lower puncta. If there is a blockage occur in the lower puncta, that causes watering, and watering due to the blockage of the drainage pathway is called epiphora. So what is the difference between watering and epiphora? What do you mean watering? Watering means excessive secretion, and epiphora, in that condition secretion is normal, but due to obstruction there is drainage is obstructed, and that causes watering, and that condition is called the epiphora. Here this is the drainage pathway. This is the conjunctival sac. Tear secreted from the lacrimal gland comes to the here, and due to when we open the eyes, this is the active pump mechanism. Now, physiologically, when we open the eye, tears are present in this level. When we close the eye, the tears from the conjunctival sac comes to the punctas are opened and they come through the puncta, they comes to the lacrimal sac. And when we open the eyes, positive pressure is created over the lacrimal sac and tears are drained from the lacrimal sac to the nasolacrimal duct and inferior meatus. Okay, understood? Then watering. What is watering? It is characterized by the overflow of tears from the conjunctival sac, and these conditions may occur due to the one condition is the excessive secretion of tears, that is called hyperlacrimation, and another condition may result due to the obstruction to the outflow. Obstruction to the outflow path may be anywhere, may be puncta, at the level of canaliculi, at the level of common canaliculi, at the level of gland or nasolacrimal duct. So that is called the epiphora. This is called epiphora. Then hyperlacrimation, causes of hyperlacrimation. Causes of hyperlacrimation is due to direct stimuli of the lacrimal glands, and lacrimal gland tumors or cysts. These conditions causes strong parasympathomimetic drugs are given that causes the production of the tears, and reflex hyperlacrimation. Reflex hyperlacrimation may be occur due to some sensory stimuli. When foreign body present in the eye, that causes lacrimation, that is due to the sense stimuli. Then affections of the lid. If there is the stye, hordeolum internum, acute mebomitis, trichiasis, and concretions and entropion, these also causes watering. Then affections of the conjunctiva. Conjunctiva may be all types of conjunctivitis, may be infective, allergic, toxic, and traumatic. Then affection of the cornea, all types of corneal ulcers and corneal abrasions, corneal foreign bodies and non-ulcerative keratitis, that also causes watering. Then affections of the sclera, they may be episcleritis and scleritis. What is scleritis? Inflammation of the superior part of the sclera is called episcleritis, and the deep part is scleritis. And the affections of the uveal tissue that may be the iritis, cyclitis and iridocyclitis. What do you mean iritis? Iritis means inflammation of the iris, and cyclitis means inflammation of the ciliary body, and iridocyclitis means inflammation of the iris as well as ciliary body, both are involved. Then acute glaucoma, it also causes watering, endophthalmitis, panophthalmitis and orbital cellulitis. What is the endophthalmitis? What is the endophthalmitis? This is the greatest complications of the cataract surgery. You already know about it in the lens chapter. You have read it. Endophthalmitis. When occur endophthalmitis? And what is the panophthalmitis? Endophthalmitis is the inflammation of the uveal tissue. All of the uveal tissue except sclera, that is called endophthalmitis. And when sclera is also involved, outermost coat, then it is called panophthalmitis. Okay. And what is orbital cellulitis? Inflammation of the orbital tissues. Then third cause of the watering is the central central lacrimation, central lacrimation or cyclical lacrimation. When anybody is cold you or you hurted, then watering occur, that is called, yes. So it is the due to central lacrimation. When you are emotionally hurted, then watering occur. So that is all about the lacrimation. Now we come to the epiphora. Inadequate drainage of tears may occur due to the physiological or anatomical causes. Our physiological causes are, there is the pump failure or weakness of the orbicularis oculi muscles, and the third cause is the mechanical obstruction. Mechanical obstruction is due to the blockage at the level of the puncta, canaliculi, lacrimal sac and nasolacrimal duct. So punctal causes of the epiphora. This may be eversion of the puncta. An eversion of the puncta occurred due to chronic conjunctivitis, chronic blepharitis and ectropion. And punctal obstruction. Punctal obstructions may be occur due to injury, burns or infections. And rarely some foreign bodies are impacted at the level of the puncta and causes obstruction of the puncta and causes epiphora. So other causes of the canaliculi, when there is the blockage at the level of canaliculi, and these blockages are due to the foreign body, trauma, strictures or canalicus. Then causes of the obstruction at the level of lacrimal sac, there may be the congenital mucous membrane fold or traumatic structures, dacryocystitis or specific infection like the tuberculosis, syphilis, dacryolethiasis, tumors and atony of the sac, that causes the obstruction and epiphora. Then other causes is the nasolacrimal duct, may be congenital lesions or non-canalizations of the nasolacrimal duct or partial canalizations or imperforated membranous valve. There is the valve present called Heschner's valve. When there is a blockage occur, that causes epiphora. And it blockage also may occur due to the traumatic or inflammatory structures or due to tumors. Then we assess the blockage. Where is the blockage? So first of all is the slit lamp examination. Through the slit lamp examination we assess where the complete examinations of the anterior segment, when there is the and puncta, patency, size, position, discharge, obstruction. Sometimes eyelashes are also impact in the puncta, that causes obstruction. Pouting of the puncta, that eversion. And ectropion. Ectropion is the outward turning of the eyelid, that causes eversion of the puncta and causes watering. And maybe there may be the blepharitis. Blepharitis may be the inflammation of the lid margin, that is called blepharitis. Dry eye syndrome, conjunctival lesions, pterygium, follicles, papilla, allergic conjunctivitis and corneal irregularities. And there are different types of dystrophies are present in the corneal surface, that also causes the epiphora. Then ROPL, Roplot's test, it means, what is the full form? Regurgitation on pressure over lacrimal apparatus system. This is called Roplot's test. And what is regurgitation? When we apply the pressure over the sac area with the help of the index finger, there is mucopurulent or mucoid or purulent material comes through the upper puncta or lower puncta, that is called regurgitation test positive. If there is blockage, then regurgitation test is negative. Then second test is, this regurgitation is also called the palpation of the lacrimal sac. Then punctal reflex of the mucopurulent material indicates mucocele. When there is mucocele is present and we press the lacrimal sac, there is the mucoid discharge comes out, that is due to the mucocele. Mucocele means lacrimal sac is filled with mucus fluid. But in case of the, when there is obstruction at the level of the opening of the canaliculi, then we press the lacrimal sac, then there is no regurgitation of fluid, and there is the that is called encysted mucocele. Then fluorescein dye disappearance test. In this test, we put the fluorescein dye on the conjunctiva and wait for some time, and after some time, if the lacrimal passages are patent, then the fluorescein drain through the passage, and through the inferior meatus they goes to the general circulation. So this is the fluorescein dye disappearance test. In this one drop of 2% fluorescein dye is instilled, and unanesthetized conjunctival sac in both eyes, when volume of the tear lake is then noted perfectly, and it is seen through in the cobalt light filter in the slit lamp examination, and after some time these dyes are disappears, and conjunctival sac is clear. So this disappearance of the dye, so there is patency of the sac. Then persistence of the significant dyes, especially in the asymmetric clearance of the dye from the tear meniscus over the 5-minute period, indicates relative obstruction of the site. When there is some parts of the fluorescein is present in the conjunctival sac and some part is drainage, it means there may be the partial obstruction. Then diagnosis, it also diagnosed by the probing. When we apply probe, there is soft tissue is filled, that means there is obstruction, and when we apply the probe and touch the bony part, that means there is the no obstruction. Then probing is done basically in the children. Then syringing is the another way to assess the patency of the lacrimal sac. In this case, 1 to 2 drops of xylocaine is instilled into the conjunctival sac and dilate the puncta, and through 2 cc syringe with some drops of antibiotics we inject through the lower puncta. If the fluid coming into the oral cavity, that means sac is patent. Then Jones dye testing. In this case, when there is suspect the partial obstruction, when partial obstruction is present, then we do this test, but rarely this test is needed. Only syringing or dacryocystography is the sufficient. In this test, patient is suspected the partial obstruction. When there is the partial obstruction also causes the epiphora. Dye is instilled into the conjunctival sac and the cotton buds are placed into the inferior meatus. So, and examine the cotton buds after 5 minutes. If the stain is present in the cotton sac, then there is the partial obstruction. If the cotton buds is dry, then there is no partial obstruction. Then dacryocystography. This is the radiological assessment. Dye is injected through the puncta and X-ray is taken and see the infiltrations of the dye. We assess the site of the obstruction. And this is dacryocystography. Here we see the dye. Then dacryocystitis. What is dacryocystitis? Inflammation of the lacrimal sac is called dacryocystitis. It may be congenital and adult type. Congenital dacryocystitis is called also called dacryocystitis of the infant or dacryocystitis neonatorum. And another is the adult dacryocystitis. Adult dacryocystitis is two types, acute dacryocystitis and chronic dacryocystitis. Then we comes about the congenital dacryocystitis. So, congenital dacryocystitis, it mainly occurs in the infants. So, it is called dacryocystitis neonatorum. And clinical features are patient's mother complained there is epiphora after the age of the 7 days of birth. And then when regurgitation test is done, regurgitation test is positive and we examine, we found there is the swelling over the lacrimal sac. So, these are the positive findings of the congenital dacryocystitis. Then complications. What are the complications? It may be causes conjunctivitis. If it can't resolve automatically, if left it untreated, then it causes recurrent conjunctivitis, chronic dacryocystitis and lacrimal abscess, and sometimes there may be the lacrimal abscess burst and form lacrimal fistula. Then treatment depend upon the age of the patient when he comes to the doctor. When initially patient come to the doctor, then initial treatment is the conservative treatment, antibiotic, eye drops and massage over the sac area up to the age of 6 months. When we massage over the lacrimal sac area, there is the imperforate mucous fold, or there is the some epithelial debris at the level of the nasolacrimal duct. Due to pressure, the opening occurs and this block is relieved. Then second one is the probing. Probing is done after 6 months. And lacrimal syringing with normal saline and antibiotic solution is done. And but in case of infant, it is done under GA. Patient is not allowed to do syringing, but in adult we normally do the syringing. Then probing of the nasolacrimal duct, and this probing of the nasolacrimal duct is done through the Bowman's probe. This is also a conservative type of treatments. Then third one is the intubation of the silicone tube. Silicone tube is inserted, and it is also done about the 6 months of age. And when patient is come in the very late stage, then we do the at the age of the 4 years. We do not perform surgery before the age of 4 years. We do only probing or intubation of the silicone tube or syringing. And when patient comes to the very late stage, then according to the condition of the sac, we perform two kinds of surgery, that is called the dacryocystectomy and dacryocystorhinostomy. But usually in the child we perform only our old ages, or patients are suffering from the autoimmune disease or any disease like syphilis, leprosy, TB or autoimmune disease, that we perform in that case only dacryocystectomy. Dacryocystectomy means, what is the difference between dacryocystectomy and dacryocystorhinostomy? When we remove the sac as a whole, that is called dacryocystectomy, complete removal of the sac. But when we make the another opening through the medial wall of the nose to the lacrimal sac to the middle meatus, that is called dacryocystorhinostomy. And when there is the canalicular block at the level of canaliculi, then we make conjunctival dacryocystorhinostomy. So chronic dacryocystitis. What is chronic dacryocystitis? This is most common in the adult and mainly in the female. Female are more prone to chronic dacryocystitis as compared to the male. And chronic dacryocystitis, it occurs when patient is suffer from acute dacryocystitis and it's left untreated, it resolves, and after some time it causes chronic dacryocystitis. Infective organism is low virulent, or mild infection is present for a long time, then we also find the chronic dacryocystitis. This dacryocystitis is divided into 4 stages. How many stages of the cataract? Tell me the stage of cataract. 4 stages. Stage of lamellar separation, then intubation stage, then immature cataract, then mature cataract, then hypermature cataract. These are the stages of cataract. You know it? And iris shadow is present in the which stage? Mature or immature? When we find the iris shadow, mature cataract or immature? Anyone? Iris shadow is present in immature cataract. Immature cataract act like a mirror. Some fibers are opaque and some fibers are transparent. So that act like a mirror, and the shadow of the iris is seen when we light is through obliquely, and so iris shadow is made over the anterior surface of the lens, and that is called iris shadow, and it is semilunar in shape. Semilunar means half moon. ईद का चांद देखे हो? ईद का चांद देखा है कोई? अभी तो गया ना ईद, दिखा नहीं? किसी को नहीं दिखा? So chronic dacryocystitis, it is divided into 4 stages. Stage of chronic catarrhal dacryocystitis, stage of lacrimal mucocele, stage of chronic suppurative dacryocystitis, and stage of the chronic fibrotic sac. So here the chronic inflammation of the sac is occur, and in this case mucus is present in the sac, and that's why it is called mucocele. It is sterile, and stage of when there is the secondary infection occurs, there is infection occur, and this mucocele turned into the pyocele. So this stage is also called pyocele, and after treatment for a long time, when sac is reduced and fibrosed, this is called fibrotic chronic fibrotic sac. This is the end stage. Then complications of the chronic dacryocystitis. It may be the entropion of lower lid, hypopion ulcer when there is the corneal abrasions are present. Then if intraocular surgery is performed, then endophthalmitis or panophthalmitis, and treatment of the chronic dacryocystitis. Conservative treatment is the repeated syringing with antibiotic eye drops is done to remove the debris, and when the infection is systemic and local antibiotic eye drops are given. When infection is resolved, then we plan the surgery according to the condition of the sac. If sac is normal, then we perform the dacryocystectomy, and if there is the fistula formation is occur, or sac is fibrosed or retracted, then dacryocystectomy is done. So indications of the DCT: too young or too old, before 4 years and above 60 years. Dacryocystitis is done when patient is unsuitable for dacryocystorhinostomy. Markedly sunken and fibrosed sac, patient is suffering from TB, syphilis, leprosis and mycotic infections, tumors of the sac, and patient is suffering from atrophic rhinitis. Then when there is the canalicular block is present, then conjunctivo dacryocystorhinostomy is done. Then acute dacryocystitis. Acute dacryocystitis is chronic exacerbation of the acute exacerbation of the chronic dacryocystitis. It is occur in the 3 stages: stage of cellulitis, stage of lacrimal abscess, and stage of fistula formation. When only inflammation of the lacrimal sac is occurred, this is cellulitis. When there is abscess is present, this is called lacrimal abscess, and a fistula formation. When the abscess is burst and make a opening, that is called fistula formation. So complications are acute dacryocystitis, acute conjunctivitis, corneal abrasions, and When infection is occurred, then corneal abrasion converted to the corneal ulcer. Then lid abscess, osteomyelitis of the lacrimal bone, orbital cellulitis, facial cellulitis, acute ethmoiditis, and rarely when the cavernous sinus is involved, then cavernous sinus thrombosis is occur, and when cavernous sinus thrombosis is occur, then it affect the general circulation and causes septicemia. So treatment is different at the level of the stage. When it is the acute cellulitis stage, so here broad spectrum antibiotic drops and systemic antibiotics are given, anti-inflammatory analgesic drugs are given for pain, and hot fermentation is done. And then stage of the lacrimal abscess, when the lacrimal abscess is done, then incision and drainage is done. And when fistula is found, then fistulectomy is done. And after some time, when the condition of the sac, if the sac is normal, then dacryocyst or rhinostomy is done, and if there is a problem in the sac, atrophic or retracted or fibrosed, then dacryocystectomy is done. So that's all about lacrimal apparatus. Okay.